Alright, so today I want to show you all of my snakes here in my reptile collection. And I just went through and I counted all my snakes, and believe it or not, I actually have 59 snakes that I want to show you really quick today. We'll try to move through them pretty quick because I know even if I take 1 minute for each snake, it's going to be an hour-long video. I want to try to cut that at least in half to try to kind of abbreviate. You know, some of these snake videos going through my whole collection, they can take a really long time. Sometimes I have as many as 150 snakes because I produce about 100 hatchlings a year, and it gets kind of lengthy. It's almost impossible and sometimes to actually go through and show you my whole collection of snakes. And today I just want to show you what I have here in my collection. Some of my females are on the verge of laying eggs, which is pretty exciting. As a matter of fact, I looked at some of my females last night and I thought for sure I was going to have eggs this morning, right on the cusp of getting my very first ball python eggs. And here in my collection I have pretty much all ball pythons except 2 reticulated pythons and 1 corn snake. And the first one I want to show you is the one around my neck. This is Bobby, my bamboo ball python, pretty much the star of my YouTube channel. He was a really good breeder for me for a really long time. He's a little bit camera shy today. Come on, Bobby, come out for the camera. He is a super friendly snake. I don't know why he's a little camera shy today. Usually he's looking right at the lens, and I don't know what he's doing today. Check out Bobby. He is a really awesome snake. He's a male, about 7 years old, really awesome. And usually he's going right for the lens, being a ham in front of the camera. He is an awesome snake. He actually bred with a lot of females and produced a lot of bamboos over the years, a lot of really cool bamboo combos. And now actually this year I gave him the year off, and his children are actually breeding. So he'll actually be a grandfather this year for the first time, which is pretty awesome. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump over and just start pulling snakes. And I'm going to start with my big reticulated python. Her name is Lucy, and she's too big to take out of her enclosure, but I want to show you how big she is. She's about 85 pounds. Let's jump over and check out Lucy. Alright, so take a look at this girl. This is Lucy. She is a reticulated python. Believe it or not, this girl is actually 50% JAMPEA dwarf from the island of JAMPEA, and even a 50% dwarf, she still is a really big girl. Last time I weighed her, I think she's between 85 and 90 pounds and about 17 feet long. Really beautiful girl. And right now, she's kind of in a feeding frenzy. I was actually going to open this up, but I think if I actually opened it up, she would probably be a little bit too aggressive. It's kind of hard to switch from a feeding mode over to a handling mode. I fed her a few really big rats. She's almost big enough to where she could actually eat some rabbits. She is a really big girl, and she's actually a white albino. So there's actually different colors of albino. Sometimes they can have a lavender albino or a purple albino, different phases of albino that are only associated with reticulated pythons. She's a really big girl. I actually tried to breed her this year, and I don't think she's gonna lay. It's kind of a little bit too late. She was getting really skinny, and then I fed her some rats, and she's kind of, it's funny, she kind of puffs up after I feed her the rats, and then after she digests them, she gets really skinny, but she doesn't really look like she's, you know, gonna ovulate or like she's gonna lay eggs or anything. So I'm hoping maybe next year. I think she's about 4 years old, so she's kind of on the cusp. Some people say that retics need to be 5 years old before they'll actually lay eggs, but she is a really beautiful girl. Alright, so I want to give you a quick tour of my reptile room. These are all the racks that I keep all my ball pythons in. Ball pythons do really well in a racking system. And down here on the very bottom, I actually have my corn snake and this big boa tub on the bottom. And then above that, I actually have extra substrate for my tubs. And then these are all my hatchlings, and then all my female ball pythons over here. And then I'll show you this real quick. This is actually the mate for Lucy. This is Sunny. He is a part super dwarf reticulated python. He's actually going into a shed right now. You can definitely see he's cleared up from his shed, but he still hasn't shed out yet. So he's a little bit grumpy. This is actually a purple albino, part super dwarf, part dwarf reticulated python. He's about 40, 45 pounds, something like that. He is a pretty respectable size for a snake. All right, so I'm gonna start with this one. This is Pee-wee. We named this one Pee-wee. This is a coral glow, 50% het pied, so there's a 50% chance that this carries one copy of the pied gene. This is actually a male and a male maker, kind of an interesting anomaly with the coral glows. If you read this as something else, all the coral glow offspring will come out as males, kind of an interesting anomaly. And if you actually take a look, it's starting to bring in some of the spots in the coral glow pattern. Pretty awesome. So here's another one. This is another one from my hatchlings from last year. Pee-wee was a hatchling from last year. This one's name is Spot. This is a male, pastel, pinstripe, ENCHI, 100% het desert ghost. As a matter of fact, I have this one for sale over on Morphmarket, and I'm actually thinking about hanging on to this guy. He's got a little bit of stuck shed right on his neck, and I'm thinking about breeding this guy back to my visual desert ghost female. I actually have a pastel spider desert ghost, and I might actually hold on to this one. He is really cool, and then I can actually work pinstripe into my desert ghost project. As a matter of fact, the ENCHI came from my male desert ghost, so I actually wasn't 100% sure that I actually had ENCHI in the mix because it was a really reduced pattern. And then as soon as I produce this guy, you can definitely see the reduced pattern of the lemon blast here. It's definitely an ENCHI gene in the mix. Really awesome snake. So here's another holdback from, this is actually a hatchling from last year, not a holdback. I actually sold this guy. This one is Snuggles. We named him Snuggles. This is from my albino pied that I crossed with a pinstripe. Didn't get the pinstripe gene, but it's 100% het albino, 100% het pied. So it has one copy of each. You can definitely see the really strong het pied markers. And usually the het pied markers, if you're kind of curious what that is, it's actually the little stripes. Looks like someone took a little marker and kind of marked on either side of the belly. That's usually a good indication that it's het pied. And we know from the breeding on this one, this is 100% het pied. So this is Cobra. Cobra is a beautiful spider. Take a look at how beautiful this is. And spiders kind of get a bad rap because some of them have severe head wobbles, and pretty much all the spiders that I produce don't have any head wobble, hardly at all, unless you like stretch them way out. You can see a little bit of a wobble in some of them, but it's really super minor. This one's actually 100% het pied because I actually have a spider pied that I bred to my 100% het caramel albino female. So there's a 50% chance that this also has one copy of the caramel albino gene as well. That's a recessive morph. You actually can't see it unless you actually have two genes. Really awesome snake. I love these spiders. So this one we named Raven, another one of my hatchlings from last year. I'm starting with last year's hatchlings, and this one is just a lemon blast, 100% het desert ghost. And you can definitely tell the pattern on this one. It's like a lot more kind of open and not really condensed like the last one with the ENCHI in it. This doesn't have the ENCHI, and that's kind of what cued me off to, you know, figuring out if I had ENCHI or not. You can actually compare these side by side, and it's really obvious one has ENCHI versus the other. And this is, it seems like this one has a really super bright line of pastel in it that really makes the belly really glow. Such an awesome looking snake. This is really awesome. Here's another spider. We named this one Sunshine. Sunshine is the same as the last spider. It's a male spider, 100% het albino, 50% het caramel albino. Really beautiful snakes. I really love these spiders. And it seems like on this one, you know, usually on these spiders, there's more or less of this kind of the white, almost like a pseudo calico that comes up on the sides. It's not really calico. This is just one gene. It almost looks like calico and ENCHI and a whole bunch of different genes mixed together. And it's just the spider gene which is dominant. So if you actually take this, breed it to something else, half the offspring come out as spiders. Really awesome morph. All right, take a look at this beautiful pastel. This is FLUFF-E, and FLUFF-E is a pastel male, 100% het desert ghost. Really awesome snake, and it's kind of interesting. I actually got this from my you know, I started looking at this. I wonder if there's actually ENCHI in this one. It's kind of hard to tell because a lot of times the pastel will really reduce the pattern. And now that I know for sure there's actually ENCHI in my male desert ghost, this one actually might have some ENCHI in it too. And I actually sold this one. I probably had to tell the guy that bought it that, hey, this is actually maybe an ENCHI pastel. Really beautiful. He's getting some really good weight to him. As a matter of fact, I think he's probably big enough to start breeding already. And by the time I'm able to ship him, he may even be quite a bit bigger. Hopefully I can actually ship here in the next few weeks, but you never know with everything that's going on this year. So here's another one of my hatchlings from last year. This is CUPCAKE, and CUPCAKE is a male scaleless head. If you take a look at the very top of his head, you can see he's got just a few scales missing right from the top of his head. And if you actually take two scaleless heads and breed them together, 25% of the time you get a completely scaleless ball python. And I'm actually really heavy into the project. I have a few females that I'm just really waiting on. You know, I have some 2-year-old females that aren't quite big enough yet. I'll actually show you those here in a bit, and it'll probably take me another year or two before those are actually ready to breed, before I can actually make some totally scaleless ball pythons. But it's kind of interesting in some of these scaleless heads, just the scaleless head by itself, it seems like it really kind of jumbles up the belly pattern a little bit and changes the overall feel of the scales. They almost feel like a little kind of like a different feel to the scales, almost a little bumpy. And I've noticed in a lot of combos, just with the scaleless head, it really kind of thins out the scales to where it makes it quite a bit brighter than a lot of the other combos, and it almost seems to reduce the pattern a little bit compared to some of the normals. You can definitely tell kind of an overall different appearance with just one copy of the scaleless head. Alright, so take a look at this one. This is actually one of my holdbacks, and if you actually take a look at this, it doesn't look that impressive at all. It looks pretty much like a normal ball python, but believe it or not, this is a female that's a triple het. It is het for albino, het for pied, and het for clown. Has all 3 genes in there, and I actually have several females and a male. This one's getting really big and beefy, although these guys have getting to the point where they're pretty much going off of food at this point, kind of turning into kind of picky feeders. They're kind of on and off as far as feeders. As a matter of fact, almost all the snakes in my collection right now are fasting. I think it's kind of because of the breeding season, but it's kind of interesting. You actually can see some alien heads on the sides, but in a lot of these combos, you actually see a little bit of a pattern kind of getting jumbled up here and there through the snakes. Some of them look almost completely normal, and some of them are kind of interesting. If you actually look at the bellies, they don't really have too much of a pied marker on most of these triple hets, which is kind of an interesting characteristic. Usually if you have het pieds, you can see the tracks along the belly, and it seems like when you're mixing in the het albinos, the het clown with the het pied, it seems like it kind of just completely eliminates any of the het pied markers on the snake. Really awesome project. Alright, so here's another triple het. This is a male, and look at the pattern on this one, how it's really jumbled up. And it seems like the blacks are a little bit darker black maybe than a normal. Sometimes the normals can be pretty black too. And you can definitely see on this one, not really any strong het pied markers on this one either. But these guys, I'm really excited to grow them up and start breeding them. You'll actually produce pieds and clowns and albinos and albino pieds and albino clowns and albino. As a matter of fact, if I actually hit the visual albino pied clown, probably what I'll do is I'll take that and I'll breed it to something else. Oh, this guy's a little feisty. And probably what I'll do is I'll breed it to another recessive gene and actually go for the quadruple hets. Maybe something high end, like, I'm not sure, maybe like a sunset or something really crazy, and actually go for some really crazy quadruple hets. Alright, so here is another triple het female albino pied clown. I actually have 1 male and 3 females, hoping to get at least some eggs. It'll be really awesome. It's almost like an Easter egg clutch when I start hatching those out. And I'm thinking with these females about this size, it's at least another 2 years, maybe 3 to 4 years before these guys are actually up to size. Sometimes they can fast for a long time when they hit the 1,000 gram wall, but this is a really awesome project. All right, so that last one was named Lucky. This one is named Mango. This is another female triple het. And look at the crazy pattern on this one. It's kind of interesting. Some of them look almost normal, and then some of them, you get those three hets working together, and it gives you this really kind of jumbled up pattern. And this is a pretty awesome project, and I just kind of wanted to show you all these. These are all my hatchlings from last year. Almost, I'd say, almost about a year old, doing really good, looking really beefy. All right, so this one is named Crusher. Crusher is a lesser. Lesser's in the blue-eyed leucistic. He is also a scaleless head. Has some scales missing from the top of his head. Hoping someday to actually produce an all-white snake with blue eyes with no scales at all, which would be really awesome. And it's kind of interesting with just one copy of the scaleless head gene. It's actually quite a bit brighter than a lot of my other lessers. You can tell it's darkening a little bit as it ages, maybe getting a little bit more contrast. When it was younger, it was super bright. And these lessers, usually they keep quite a bit of their brightness as they age and mature. The bellies are usually pretty clear. This is a really awesome project. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to breed him this fall. He's maybe on the edge. I think he'd be over 500 grams. I might be able to get away with breeding him, but it's kind of risky breeding really young males. Sometimes, you know, I like to actually kind of hold them back for maybe another year to get some really good weight on them to make sure they actually breed the females the first time. Take a look at this big old boy. This is my fire pied, really awesome snake. And essentially what it is it's fire in with the recessive pied. When you mix fire in, it really lightens all the dark spots of the pied, gives you kind of a lighter color of the dark spots. I actually bred this to a normal last year and got my first fires 100% head pieds, got a few of those, and I kind of proved out what else was in there. It didn't look like there was anything except fire and pied in this one. I'm actually breeding this one to my pinstripe pied female this year, and I'm breeding it to I also have a really big female pied that I'm hoping she'll actually lay some eggs. She's looking pretty good. And then I'd actually get half pieds and half fire pieds. And when these fire pieds are really small, they're super bright orange up in here, and then as they age, they kind of just fade out, and it turns into this kind of an interesting, like a lighter color pied. All right, so take a look at this big old boy. This is my spider pied male, and I actually bred him once. I actually have him up for sale right now. He's a really awesome, it's kind of weird. He's got these little like paradox spots all on him. You know, I actually did a video about trying to breed spots into ball pythons. It'd be interesting to actually take some of these, maybe with the higher number of spots, breed them together, and if it's, you know, maybe a genetic paradox, which is maybe highly unlikely, you might actually reproduce the spots. But it's really interesting if you actually mix spider in with the pied. Essentially what it does is it pushes all the color just to the head of the snake. You can actually see the color of the head on this one is just, the color is just on the head. He's a little bit bashful. This is a really big male ball python. He is huge. So this is kind of an interesting snake. This is a female. It's actually a lesser pied, so it has the lesser gene in with the pied. And the funny thing about the lesser, it's actually in the blue-eyed leucistic, and if you actually have one copy of the lesser and you breed it into the pied, you actually get a snake that has blue eyes. This one actually has, I don't know if you can see it, but this girl has bright blue eyes, and she's almost big enough to breed. She is a really big girl, looking really good. So here's my big 3-year-old clown female. She actually laid the eggs last year to give me my triple hets, my albino pied clowns. I'm not sure if she's gonna lay this year. She's kind of laying on her side when I pulled her out of the tub, thinking she might actually have some eggs in there. I'm actually breeding my banana ENCHI clown male to this girl, and I'm kind of on the edge, not sure if she's gonna lay this year. She's definitely off of food. That's kind of one of the disadvantages of actually breeding a smaller girl like this is, you know, it's kind of hard to get the weight on them. It's almost best if you actually, you know, keep feeding them consistently over like 3 or 4 years before you breed them for the first time, because then you get a lot of really good body weight on them. It's really good to give them a year off every now and then just to kind of pack on the body weight to keep them in really good shape so you don't kind of wear them out breeding year after year. So here's a girl I've been trying to breed for the last few years. This one's actually 5 years old. She is a bumblebee, really beautiful girl. This is the spider and the pastel. She's also possible het pied and possible yellow belly. And we start mixing yellow belly in the mix like this, you really can't tell if it's in there until you actually prove it out. And this girl, for whatever reason, she gives me the evil eye and she just starts snapping at me. I've been trying to really tame her down a lot over the last few years and I just can't seem to snap her out of it. She's really beautiful. I'm actually breeding her this year with my, actually I'm breeding the fire pied to this one as well, hoping I can actually prove out the het pied in this girl. So if this one is actually het pied, it'll actually produce 50% of the offspring will actually come out as visual pieds, which would be really awesome. Alright, so take a look at this. This is my pinstripe pied female. I'm also breeding this one as well to my fire pied, hoping to get some more fire pieds and some more pinstripe pieds. As a matter of fact, if you actually have pinstripe with fire, essentially what it does is it takes the gold and it kind of fades it out a little bit more. And someone actually asked me, how much money would I make if I sold all of my snakes? And let me tell you, a girl like this, just this one girl, an adult female pinstripe pied, you could probably get, I'd say about $1,200 to $1,500 easily off of this girl. And it's not really about what your snakes are worth. It's about continuing to improve the genetics of your snake as you go. And the problem is, if you actually sold all your snakes and cashed them in, you can make a lot of money, but then you wouldn't really keep the business going by breeding more and more of the offspring. So you kind of pretty much stop your income, your whole business, if you actually cashed in on your snakes. But this girl, actually, I waited a long time to actually get this one. When I bought this girl, they had a few over on Morphmarket and then they sold right away, and I couldn't find one for a really long time. And I think I paid like $800 for this girl as a hatchling. And of course, anything pied that is grown up and mature, especially females, they can really bring in a lot more money. So here is the star of the show when it comes to my clown project. I actually bought into this project and bought this banana ENCHI clown. Look at how big he's getting, really big and beautiful. And it's kind of interesting, he doesn't really have a lot of spots. Usually with the banana, the older they get more and more of these little freckles. But when you mix it in with the ENCHI and the clown, you really don't get any spots. Look at how beautiful the head is on this one, really awesome. As a matter of fact, I paid like $1,500 for this one just about 6 months, maybe 8 months ago. Well, maybe it's almost been a year now. He's getting really big. I'm actually breeding this one to both of my clowns. Hopefully, I'll actually be able to reproduce this beauty. So this is kind of my dinker project here. A lot of people have been asking me kind of for an update on this snake. This hatched out and I had no clue. First, when the head first poked out of the egg, I was like, yeah, that looks like a normal, until it started coming out. And then I saw this really weird line right on top of the snake. And then I saw the pattern on the side of the snake, and it's kind of completely different than anything I've ever seen. I've actually seen some different morphs. I've seen a mahogany over on Morphmarket that looks kind of like this, and I've seen like I think it's like the Rio, which is the Super Arroyo, kind of looks like this. There's a lot of morphs and a lot of combos and a lot of supers that look just like this, and I'm kind of curious what this is and where it came from. Actually, this actually came from breeding my Coral Glow to a normal, and I kind of popped out this really weird looking snake with these kind of weird patterns on the sides. And this is actually a female, so I'm definitely thinking about breeding this one this fall. She is definitely big enough. I think she has the weight. She's kind of jumping around all over. She's really not used to being held, but she's a really beautiful snake. Alright, so this is my albino pied. Looks like he is starting to go into shed. He's a really good breeder. I actually reproduced him, produced one female albino pied, breeding this to my albino het pied. I also produced my triple heads, breeding this one to that clown. Really awesome snake. So take a look at this big old girl. This is my lesser clown female. I'm actually breeding this one to my banana ENCHI clown, hoping for some banana ENCHI lesser clowns. I'm really into the clown project, and clown is kind of the king of combos. When you mix it with other genes, makes for some really impressive combos. So this is actually a scaleless head male, 50% het caramel albino, 2 years old. He's actually pretty small. He hasn't been really eating that much at all. He's kind of a picky eater. I actually started breeding him with another female, which is 50% het caramel albino, hoping for the scaleless head visual caramel albinos. And you know, if you actually take a small snake like this and you start breeding them, a lot of times they'll go off of food, and then it's kind of hard to get weight back on them because a lot of times they'll fast. But he definitely is a scaleless head, so you breed two of them together and you get a completely scaleless ball python. And if I actually produce the scaleless head, the visual caramel albino scaleless head, I'm actually hoping for a male and a female. If I actually produce those, then I'll actually probably sell these and kind of replace them with the visual, hoping for the actually totally scaleless caramel albinos eventually. So here is a 2-year-old female, still pretty small. This is actually a lemon blast, which is a pastel pinstripe, really high expression scaleless head. And I actually have 2 of these, and they were really super picky. They went off of food for a long time. It looks like she's like up and about, ready to take another rat. It's kind of interesting. Some of them really start pounding the meals, and some of them are just a little bit slow. And once they start eating really heavy, they can gain weight really fast. It's pretty amazing. And sometimes they'll just fast for months for no reason at all. These ball pythons can drive you crazy. So take a look at this one. This is actually a female scaleless head, 50% het caramel albino. So this is kind of a different route to go versus breeding my 50% het scaleless head males back to my 100% het caramel albino. This is kind of a quicker way. So this one actually has the scaleless head, and it may also have the caramel albino. So this year I'm actually proving out my males to see if they actually do have the caramel albino. And if they do, I can actually take one of those, breed it back to this girl, and the first year, if this actually has the caramel albino, I could actually get a caramel albino scaleless ball python. So this is like as close as I'm getting to the completely scaleless project. I can actually breed other stuff into this, like my lesser scaleless head and stuff like that. But this is, you know, this is definitely not big enough to breed, even though she's 2 years old. I'm thinking she has maybe another year or 2 before she'll actually be big enough to breed back to anything else. So here is my other female. As a matter of fact, you know, I started looking at this. This one almost looks like it has ENCHI in it too. It's kind of interesting. This is actually a lemon blast scaleless head, and it's a female. So this is like as close as I'm getting to my scaleless project. I'm thinking maybe one more year on this girl, and she'll definitely be big enough to breed. As a matter of fact, in a few months when breeding season comes up, she may be pretty close. I really don't like to breed them this young because, you know, essentially what it does is it puts them on a really long fast. So I'd like to really get more into her, get a little bit more weight on her before I actually get this girl. So come on, girl, she's just running. These snakes aren't really used to being held that much, but you can definitely see she's got some pretty good weight to her. Still not big enough for breeding. All right, so take a look at this boy. This is my pastel ENCHI Desert Ghost, and I kind of proved out the ENCHI on this guy because he had that lemon blast with the ENCHI 100% het Desert Ghost. So this has the pastel and the recessive Desert Ghost, which you need 2 copies of the Desert Ghost for visual. Really beautiful snake, and this is probably, I'd say this is probably one of the genes that is the least appreciated, probably has the most potential out of any genes on the market to make some really amazing combos. I really love these Desert Ghosts, especially when you work pastel in with Desert Ghost. So here is one of Bobby's babies. This actually has the bamboo plus the calico in it. Look at how beautiful it is. I actually produced one with pastel, and it was even more stunning. Pretty awesome. And you can definitely tell the face looks just like Bobby on this one. Really cute face on this bamboo combo. And this is like the perfect size for a male to actually breed to the females. And I was actually breeding this one to several females this year. Both the bamboo and the calico are co-dominant. it so you can actually get both. You could reproduce this just even breeding it to a normal. I'm actually breeding this to a lemon blast, which would be pretty cool because I could actually get the pastel and the pinstripe mixed in with this combo. Probably one of my most impressive, probably one of my favorite combos in all of my ball pythons. Probably this one and my banana ENCHI clown are probably hands down my favorite. So here's another scaleless head female. This is actually a pastel, hoping to actually get these girls up to size at some point and produce a bunch of scaleless ball pythons. I held quite a few of them back. It's kind of one of the first projects that's kind of a high-end project. The price has come down significantly on the scaleless, and by the time I actually produce some scaleless, they'll come down even more, I'm sure. But this girl, I'm sure she has probably another year, maybe another year or two before she's actually big enough to breed. She's an awesome snake. So this one is actually another female scaleless head, 50% head caramel albino. I kept a few of them back just in case one of them fasted for a really long time. I actually have a backup. And it's kind of interesting on this one, you really can't see any scales missing on the top of the head, hardly anything. And kind of the one trick you can actually do to see if it's a scaleless head is you can actually look at the last vent, the last scale right before the vent, right on the bottom of the snake. And if it's actually split into two, then it's actually a scaleless head. If you can actually see that last little scale right there, I don't know if you can see it, it's actually split right in two instead of one solid scale. And you can definitely tell from that last scale being split right in two that this is a scaleless head. So here's another male scaleless head, 50% head caramel albino. And kind of the reason I held back a few of these because there's only a 50% chance that these actually have the caramel albino. And once I produce the visual, a lot of these will actually be kind of redundant because then I can hold back the visuals. Except for the females, I'll probably keep the females. But you know, I'm actually breeding one of these to, I actually have two females that are 100% head caramel albino and two of these males. So I'm hoping between these two males, I'll actually get to the point where I'll actually get some visual caramel albinos. Alright, so take a look at this beautiful girl. This is actually a bamboo pastel pinstripe. This is one of Bobby's babies, and this is only 2 years old. Look at how big she is compared to my other ones. It's interesting how some of them are super beefy and some of them are just kind of lagging behind. It's kind of weird how ball pythons are. Sometimes it's, you know, a lot of times you'll buy snakes and you'll think, oh yeah, I have this many females and I can produce so many offspring, and come to find out, you know, they stop eating for whatever reason. It's not really as easy as you would think breeding ball pythons because a lot of them are really picky eaters, but eventually they all come around and they start eating and you can actually breed them. This is a really beautiful snake, almost has like a metallic color to it, really awesome. Alright, so here's another one of Bobby's babies. This is actually a bamboo lesser, and so it has the bamboo gene and the lesser gene, which makes a blue-eyed leucistic, and this is actually a allelic. So everything I breed this to, half the offspring will be bamboo, half will be lesser. I'm actually breeding this one to 3 normals this year. Hopefully I'll actually get some bamboos and some lessers. So this one is actually a spider pied, which is also known as a white wedding. Sometimes with the spider pieds you get color on the head, and sometimes you get an all white snake with no color on the head at all. And this is a female, really awesome, beautiful snake. Alright, so here is my male breeder coral glow, and it's interesting with coral glows, pretty much the same thing as bananas, and some have more spots and some have less. This guy's a full adult, so he won't get any more spots than this. Doesn't really have any other genes in there, although it does seem like there might be something in there because the pattern is a little bit kind of jumbled up and reduced. As a matter of fact, this is where my dinker came from. I bred this one to a normal, so I'm thinking maybe taking this and breeding it back to that dinker project and seeing maybe if I can produce the super of the dinker. Alright, so those were all my holdbacks, some of my breeders, and all my hatchlings, and I still have all of these females to go through. I'm just going to kind of quickly pull some of these out. Some of these I'm breeding, so I really don't want to pull them out and put them on the table. This is actually a big lemon blast, and let me see if I can kind of move some of my stuff around here. Look at how big this girl is. She is really big. She looks like she's going into her pre-lay shed. So I'm thinking about 30 days from now, this girl is gonna lay a whole bunch of eggs. She is a really big girl. And some of these het caramels up here, these are the ones I'm breeding my male scaleless heads to. And I thought for sure one of these was actually gonna lay some eggs either last night or this morning, and they didn't. Look at how big and beefy she is. And these are the ones I'll probably hopefully get my visual caramel albinos, the first ones. And I actually have here, this is a lesser female. She's actually had the year off, but she's got some pretty decent body condition. Look at how good she is. I'm thinking about breeding her this fall. Maybe I can actually breed a bamboo to this girl and get some more blue-eyed leucistics. And I don't know why she's going in her water all the time. It's kind of crazy. These ball pythons, they kind of do whatever they want to do. And then let me show you this one up here. Have another het caramel. And this one, I'm thinking maybe we'll see some eggs on some of these. I don't know. They are really super close to actually laying some eggs. I thought for sure this girl was going to lay some this morning. And a girl like this, she could probably lay up to 15 eggs. Pretty awesome. So I have another lemon blast down here, a pastel pinstripe, and this girl has been stuck in a shed. I've been trying to get this shed off. I'm thinking about someone actually said, you know, you can actually take a towel and wet the towel and put it on the snake in the tub, or kind of put them in a pillowcase. Sometimes they can actually rub off the stuck shed. And this one actually got away from me a little bit and it dried out a little too much. And you can see I kind of like a little bit of humidity down in the bottom, but still dry up on top. That's pretty much perfect. And if you actually let it dry out too much and they catch you in a shed, then you know they can kind of get stuck in the shed and you kind of have to work with them. And sometimes you can actually soak them in water too for a little bit. This is my pastel calico female. Actually, the last one I showed you is she's had the year off because she really didn't have the body size. But look at this one, how big she is. This girl is definitely going to lay a whole bunch of eggs. I actually bred my my pastel desert ghost male to this one, hoping to work some of the calico into the desert ghost project, which would be really awesome. And then I have my jungle WOMA spider here, which I actually sold this girl. She's looking pretty good. She's got some pretty decent body condition, not too bad. She's kind of a picky eater. She actually bred for me once and I produced some really awesome snakes from her. As a matter of fact, this one is supposed to have jungle WOMA in it, and for the life of me I could not see the jungle WOMA in the offspring. But someone actually said when they bought this snake they produced the super jungle WOMA, so it's definitely in there. It's just a pretty subtle morph, like a pattern reducing morph on the spider there. This one is a pinstripe. This girl, I'm pretty sure this girl is actually going to lay some eggs. She's looking really big and beefy, kind of thinning out a little bit, and I hope she didn't actually reabsorb her eggs. Sometimes they can actually do that. As a matter of fact, about a month ago she was looking really super big and she's kind of shrunk down a little bit. Kind of makes me concerned that she might reabsorb her eggs, but I don't know. I'm hoping she'll actually lay some eggs. She looks really good compared to some of my other ones that I know for sure won't lay. Alright, so I just have a few more tubs on the top. I'm going to try to run through these as quick as possible so we don't have an hour-long video. Here is another lemon blast. This one I'm actually breeding as well. If you take a look at the body condition on this one, it looks like she might lay some eggs. As a matter of fact, it looks like she may be ovulating. Looks really thick right in there, looking pretty good. And then this one right here, this is where Bobby lives. I actually moved him up into a bigger tub. And it's kind of funny, he's got all this room in this tub, and for some reason he likes to jam himself up here in the corner. I almost think he likes the smaller tubs a little bit better. He's kind of funny. I don't know why he jams himself up in the corner like that. And then let's see, I have a normal over here. Let me kind of move my light. And this normal is kind of interesting. I'm actually breeding her, but I'm almost 100% sure that she's not gonna lay. And as for a normal, she's kind of has an unusual coloration, kind of like almost like a cinnamon color in a reduced pattern. And this is also where my dinker came from. So I'm wondering if it's kind of a combination between my coral glow and this weird kind of a normal female, that maybe it actually already produced the super whatever it is and we're actually seeing that. This is another one. I'm actually got this girl stuck in the shed. I had a couple tubs here that actually kind of got away from me and they dried out a little bit. And the problem is if the tubs dry out and your snakes shed, then you have the problem of a stuck shed. And this girl I've been working on for a couple of days too, trying to get more of the stuck shed off. This girl has had the year off because she does not have the body condition. This is my albino head-pied female. She'll only eat small lives and only kind of randomly. This one's kind of picky too. This one's had the year off, only will eat small live rats. And this one kind of got stuck in the shed too. Poor girl, it kind of ran out. It's funny, all my tubs dried out just for a couple days, and then I had like several snakes shed, and then, you know, then you kind of have this whole problem. That's the problem when you have a whole bunch of snakes and you let something dry out, and then they shed, and then you kind of have to chase everything around. There's quite a few snakes I have that are getting ready to go in a shed, so you definitely want to stay on top of your substrate. And this one actually is, I'm breeding this one. I'm not sure if she's going to go, but if she actually sheds, it may be her pre-lay shed. And the funny thing about this girl is she almost acts like she's on some eggs. She's all coiled up like she's sitting on some eggs, but I know she's not. It kind of fooled me a few times that I thought she was on eggs. All right, only 6 more tubs to go on the very top. And let me tell you, these videos when I'm showing you all my snakes, it takes a long time just to even open the tubs and show you the snakes. It's pretty amazing how many I actually have. This is actually check this girl out. She is a really beautiful snake. This is my desert ghost. She also has pastel and spider in the mix. Really beautiful girl. And it almost looks like maybe she's getting a little bit thicker, like maybe she's ovulating. I don't know if she's gonna go. I've been trying to breed this girl for the last couple years, and she gets big and looks like she's gonna go, and then she doesn't lay any eggs. I don't know if she's gonna lay any eggs this year, but she's actually from 2016, so she is 4 years old. You would think that I would actually get some eggs from this girl at some point. Sometimes it can be really frustrating. I'm actually breeding my visual pastel desert ghost male, which also has ENCHI in it, to this girl, so it'll be really awesome. And it looks like she could actually take a rat now, which is not a good sign in the middle of the breeding season, because usually they go off of food and then they lay eggs. So here's another one I'm really excited about. This one right here is my really big pied female. Hoping she'll actually go. I'm not sure if she's actually going to go or not. Some of these are like right on the edge. If they're going to go, they're going to go late, but she has a really good body condition, really nice and big and beefy. But I'm not sure. She hasn't really ovulated, and she looks like she almost may be going back on food. So let me show you this other pastel over here. I'll just kind of pull these last few tubs. I need to move things along. This pastel looks like she might be getting to the point where she might actually build some eggs there. She's looking pretty good for not eating for so long. It looks like she might be going in her pre-lay shed. Then I have another albino up on top here. See if I can show you the last few. I've actually gave both my albinos the year off because they were really super picky. This one's actually had quite a few rodents since she's had the year off, and it looks like she's getting some body condition. Maybe if I could get a few more into her before this fall, I'll actually be able to breed her. And then this one, I never know on some of these. This is another normal, one of my first normal females. It looks like she might be getting big enough to where she might be laying some eggs. I'm actually breeding her. I think I'm crossing my coral glow with this one. She's just a regular, normal ball python. I have one last one over here in the corner. This is my lesser. I gave both my lessers the year off. They were really super thin and super picky, and they've been eating a little bit more. I'm thinking maybe I can put them both back in the breeding cycle this coming fall. All right, so here is my last snake. This is Big Red. He's a really big male corn snake, really bright and beautiful. As a matter of fact, I actually just sold Big Red, and I'm just waiting on to ship him out. As a matter of fact, I probably will. He's actually living in my boa tub right now. Probably what I'll do once I sell Big Red, I'm actually looking at getting a boa. I'd really like to get a boa and probably a female. I'm thinking about maybe a Super Fire, one of the all white ones with black eyes. Really awesome boa constrictor. but they're really expensive. So I'm not sure, I'll probably have to wait until I sell some hatchlings before I can actually invest in a boa. But this is a really beautiful snake. Look at how beautiful it is. And I actually bought this just to do a video, corn snakes versus ball pythons. And I think, you know, each have its advantages. Corn snakes are definitely a lot easier to feed. These guys will eat anything. As a matter of fact, he's getting a little bit chunky right in the middle. He's gaining quite a bit of weight. I'm kind of putting him on a diet right now because this guy will eat anything, unlike ball pythons that can be really picky. This guy is really awesome. And corn snakes, I'd say a little bit more squirrely than a ball python. A little bit harder to keep around your neck. They just keep going and going. Pretty awesome snake. All right, so there you have it. Those are my 59 snakes. And let me tell you, with about 50 breeders and holdbacks, plus an additional 100 hatchlings every year, it is definitely enough to keep me busy. And between the snakes and my cows and the dogs and my YouTube videos every day, let me tell you, I have a pretty busy schedule here at the farm. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.